Hello and welcome. I'm Sarah Baker, Executive Director of SCBWI. Today we're going to hear from the Nadias, and you'll find out more about who they are if you don't already know. And we're going to hear about how to create powerful stories for readers to see themselves. So before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that SCBWI's virtual summer conference is happening very soon, July 30th through August 2nd. Tickets are on sale. There are some parts of the conference that have limited attendance options, so come check it out before we sell out of all of those. And just check out the whole event. It's going to be incredible and very fun. So today we are going to learn so much. We're going to learn about techniques that can be applied across genres and different age categories. We're going to learn about things that amplify emotion in not only text, but also illustration. This is very much a session for both authors and illustrators. And techniques that help us go beyond stereotypes and get to really authentic storytelling. You're going to come away from this session with tools that can be applied to your work immediately. And this session is made possible by support from the Authors Coalition of America, and it's open to the public, which not all of our digital workshops are. So if you are already an SCBWI member, make sure to tell your children's book friends who aren't members yet, tell them about this so that they can watch it. It'll be on our YouTube channel. They can watch it, they can learn something for free, and they can get to know the organization a little more. And if you're here watching right now and you're not a member yet, you should definitely consider joining. SCBWI has very useful, important membership benefits. And this organization keeps you connected to a really wonderful, supportive community of children's book creators and professionals. So the Nadias, all of them have a lot to share. So let's get started and welcome them to the screen. Please join me. Hi.
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 Thank you for having me.
All right. We have the Nadias here. I'm going to leave the screen and I'll be back to help out with Q&A at the end. Thanks all of you so much for joining us. We can't wait.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I love this energy and excitement that we have in the chat. And we're about to get started. And my name is Nadia Salomon, and I will be moderating our panel. And so I am going to share screen in a moment. All right, here we go. To get us started, I just wanted to say the name of our presentation is How to Create Powerful Stories for Young Readers to See Themselves. And we are the Book of Nadias. And I am Nadia Salomon, and we have Nadia Fisher and Nadia Hsieh joining us. And Nadia Alam was going to present with us, but unfortunately had an emergency and is not able to attend and participate. But we promise you we will share what we all had discussed in our presentation. So who are we? We are creatives who write and creatives who illustrate, and we also happen to be named Nadia. As you can see, Nadia Fisher, Nadia Hsieh, and myself, we are the three presenting today. And the other Nadias in our group are Nadia Alam, Nadia Ali, and Nadia Elhan, who is out of Canada. Nadia Ali is in Trinidad, and Nadia Alam is also out of Toronto, Canada. And then I am here in the Seattle area. Nadia Fisher is in the Washington, D.C. area. And of course, Nadia Hsieh is joining us from Taiwan, so she is way past her bedtime at 15 hours ahead. But she is here with us, so we're super excited. And so our story began actually with SCBWI. We had a chance meeting between myself and Nadia Han. We were at SCBWI LA in 2018. And someone walked into the room and said, "Hey, Nadia." And the both of us turned around and we were like, "Hey." And they were like, "Oh, I was talking to Nadia." And I'm like, "Yeah, my name's Nadia." And the other person was like, "Oh, that's Nadia Hunt." And it was really funny because then we realized, oh, we're two Nadias in the same room. And we decided to talk about, like, just our dreams, aspirations. And Nadia had the idea of a hashtag named Nadias Who Write, or that she had been using. And I told her about my idea of starting a social club called the Book of Nadias, because I've met a lot of Nadias in my lifetime who are very creative, and I thought it would be a cool thing to do. So we decided after the conference to start the Book of Nadias. So that's what I did. I started the social club. Nadia kept Nadias Who Write. And then I said, well, if you're doing Nadias Who Write, then why don't we have one that says Nadias Who Illustrate? So now we own or use both of those hashtags for our group, the Book of Nadias. And I lied when I said here on the slide that we were together for 6 years. We've been together for 7 years. So for 7 years, we have been hanging out, creating, writing, cheering each other on, supporting each other. And yeah, so that's how we became the Book of Nadias. And we are here today presenting because we're thrilled. SCBWI is giving us the opportunity to share our creative works, our endeavors, and what we're doing behind the scenes for real. So our time together today, we're going to talk to you about 3 core themes, and then we're going to talk to you about our approach for these themes. And then if we have time, we will take Q&A if you have questions for us, which I'm sure you do. And to get us started, Nadia Fisher is going to talk to us about authentic voices in our work. Nadia Hsieh is going to talk to us about finding your creative style. And of course, many of you know that I love mentor texts, taking them apart. And that is what I will be talking to you all about. And so again, we're here to talk to you about how to create powerful stories for young readers to see themselves. And these are our collective books together. And to get us started, I will toss to Nadia Fisher.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to pull up my screen. Just a second here. And to minimize this. All right. There we go. So today I'm going to talk about, trying to get this slide to go, authentic voices. And there sometimes, there's a lot of talk about voice and what is voice. We're going to cover that, talk about authentic voice and how to bring out your authentic voice, and then do a little activity to help you get started. So what is voice? There's not really one definition of your creative voice. In writing, it's the unique way that you use language, words, rhythm, dialogue, and any other writing tools all together to share your story. It's what gives it life and what makes it uniquely yours. Basically, it's your heart and soul on the page, what you're bringing to it. In illustration, it's more about your why you're choosing to illustrate. And sometimes that can go through the themes that you keep coming to that show up in your art. I am both an author-illustrator and an illustrator. So I'm just going to cover a little bit of both and see how that works. Let's see. So what is authentic voice? So that one is taking your writing voice and bringing exactly yourself, your worldview, your personal experiences, your emotions, and more to the page. Author of Spanish is the Language of My Family and many other books, Michael Genhart, says authenticity is in the details of who you are. And I'm going to cover more about that in a little bit. So, but first I want to show you some examples from mainly some picture books and a middle grade book, but all of this can be used for writing for any age. Excuse me. So for some example, first example is from At the Cookout, which is my author-illustrator debut that came out this year in April. And I wrote it. It's a story about cookouts and the Black community, and basically from my experience growing up in my family. So I start off with, we greet each other with laughter, hugs, and high fives. And then I wanted to draw like some of like the dapping and like incorporate the culture that we have in there, just so that, you know, kids can see themselves reflected. What's good? Haven't seen you in a minute. Look how much you've grown. So just a little bit of language to show, and throughout there's a lot more. And sometimes you can, I guess, read somebody, like find somebody's voice, like define their voice through a catalog of their work. And for these next two examples, I'm going to show two books by Antoine Eady, who this one is The Last Stand, and the next one is The Gathering Table. So you can see how he brings his heart and his love for Gullah Geechee culture and Southern culture and family and connection to all of his books, just in different ways. So this one, he has Papa's hands are black and wrinkled, and each wrinkle tells me a story. If anything broke, Papa fixed it. If a sign needed holding, Papa held it. And then you can see the also like the soul of the story captured by the illustrations of Jarrett and Jerome Pumphrey. Let's see. And here we have The Gathering Table, also by Antoine Eady, and illustrated by London Ladd. And again, you can see the culture that Antoine wants to share about and the things that are special to him in his books. So the breeze, it sings. The tide, it ebbs. The smell of salt fills the warm air. Now this is my favorite table. Covered in newspapers, it's piled high with low country boil, ready for cracking, dipping, eating. The pile is so high that even on my stool, it towers over me. Okay. So we all know Jason Reynolds, a great writer, and is also an inspiration for authenticity. I heard him speak, and he was saying that he writes for kids for their experiences, and just wants to share what they go through, not necessarily a lesson, but just anything so that they can feel represented. So the first little excerpt is from Ghost, and it just opens up in the kid's voice. Check this out. This dude named Andrew Dahl holds the world record for blowing up the most balloons with his nose. Yeah, that's true. So you can see like it's in a typically like how a kid would share it. And then there was a party for Langston, also illustrated by Jerome and Jarrett Pumphrey. And you can see with the illustrations, Jarrett and Jerome also bring a sense of joy and also deepness and connection to the culture. So I'm just going to take a little part. And all the books on the shelves were listening and looking at all the people, shimmying, full of dazzle. Don't nobody dance like a word maker, and all the best word makers were there. And we have When Black Girls Dream Big by Tanisha Moore and Robert Paul Jr. And this is just one of the spreads. I know both of them, so I know like their personality and their passion that comes through the page and through the words and through the art. So it says, I am dope. a descendant of African kings and queens. My crown shines bright in all its glory. My brown skin glows from the sun's touch. Magnificent and majestic, that's me. And so you can see even through the illustration, it's a contemporary child brought back in history, but there's so much character there, and that's the authenticity that's coming through. So I wanted to also share Sundust by Zeke Pena. It's one of my favorite books. And he wants to share a lot about his culture and show the beauty of it. And authenticity uses that with the illustrations, with the colors, with the language. So I'll just read a little bit. We find a streak of sunlight humming and dancing with spiny ocotillo, a field of creosote, please don't mind me, sundrops, and a shell of sunbursts, but no one is home. And we have Scarce-Sighted on the First Day of School by Aaliyah Agostini and Lala Watkins. Again, I know Aaliyah, and I know she loves to bring out, she loves to empower kids through joy. And she's funny in real life too. So I think she brings that child curiosity through her writing. And Lala also has a child-friendly style in her writing. There are so many kids here, and I feel a little curious. I'm feeling shy, but curious. Will I make a friend? And so quickly, I want to go through just illustrators and how, if you look through their catalog as well, you can see kind of the voice that comes out. London Ladd, who also illustrated one of Nadia Salomon's books, you can see that there's a love for Black culture and just bringing a tenderness to the page and joy and empowerment through the colors and through the compositions. Abi Alwar brings joy and silliness and connection to kids so that, you know, they can feel silly and feel all the things that they want. And also represents culture. Ebony Glenn is another wonderful illustrator. And I wanted to show her because she has different styles of illustration. Some that might look more like paper cut, collage illustration, and some that might be, that might use lines more and some without lines. But through it all, you can still see there's a sweetness that she brings out and a tenderness and it's kind of like embracing kids with her artwork. And also Raoul III, a wonderful author, illustrator, and graphic novelist and illustrator, who uplifts his culture and through illustrations and just brings out, there's a lot of energy. There's definitely, his style is unique to him, but I think he uses Spanish language also to connect. And this is some of my work, and throughout it, I think my artistic voice is about connection and family and community and hope, which is what I try to convey throughout different works. So how do we bring out our authentic voices. Basically, you're going to tap in to what is familiar to you. You want to dig deep and get to know yourself. With your writing voice, you can write often and write freely, like without writing for somebody else, without thinking what somebody else is going to think about your writing. You can write how you speak or communicate, so that you can see if there's a natural rhythm with that. And stay true to who you are. For illustration, think about the things that you like to illustrate. What comes naturally to you, whether it's whimsical type art or dark type of stories. Just see what you bring out of the art. And if you're illustrating for somebody else, there's a lot of research that you can do, to make sure that you're sharing the story, but also while bringing out your story as well. So I want to do a quick exercise with an identity map, um, which is just going to help you think about aspects of yourself so that you can come up with stories or illustrations, that you want to share, that you might want to think about more. So you can, start with the web, and I'll talk about that. I'll show you in a second. And you're going to fill it in with how you see yourself, aspects of yourself. And you can also put in with those aspects, how does society see you? And are there any identities that intersect? So let me get to here. So I did a little quick one about me. So, I'm an eldest daughter, I'm a mom, I'm a recovering lawyer, introvert, multicultural family. And I can go even, when you're doing yours, you can go even deeper. For instance, I grew up in the DC area for the most part, but I moved a lot. Like in the area, I've lived in Maryland, Virginia, and DC. We moved a lot. And so how does that, I can write about how does that make me feel? Do I feel rooted to an area or not? I come from a multicultural family, so there are different cultures that I can write about and share. So if you would like to take a minute, and either if you have something to write with, you can do that. And then you can share one thing about yourself that you find the most interesting. I'll just give you like 30 seconds because we're probably running short on time. Then I can. Underestimated is great. Just now seeing the chat, so sorry if I missed anything. Silly is great. Analytical. Nomadic. I like that. Book girl, mixed of shy and confident. Yeah, stuck in age 12. Helpful artist. Distance runner. These are all so good. Bilingual. Yes, exactly. And so you can use, oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. All of these. So you can use all of these identities to find stories or find art that you want to share, because you can, all of these things that are unique to you. And this is going back to Michael Genhardt's authenticity is in the details. All of these little details make you authentic, but also you can find things that, they're universal themes. So for instance, at the cookout, yes, it's about a cookout, and it's, hopefully typical in the Black community was what I captured. But there are themes of family. There are themes, we have cousins, we have frustration, joy and summertime. And so I feel like anybody can read these books. So even if something is you feel is unique to you, they're also universal themes and something that can relate to readers and make them feel seen as well. Oh, these are brilliant. So hopefully this was helpful, and I am going to encourage you to, sorry, we'll go back to Nadia, but have fun with digging deep into yourself and stay true to yourself and just keep creating. And I'll drop it off back to Nadia Salomon, who's going to come up. I think. Okay.
That was wonderful. Thank you, Nadia Fisher. And now we're going to toss to Nadia Hsieh, who is going to share with us how to develop your creative style. Nadia?
Okay, let me do this. Okay, hi everyone. So my name is Nadia Hsieh. Actually, it's 4:29 in the morning my time because I'm in Taiwan, and I'm also leading a whole week summer camp teaching. So if I'll have a hoarse voice, I hope you don't mind. So I would like to share my artistic journey, how I find my art style. Okay. Yeah, how I find my art style. And the key is still I love my art style. So before that, I would like to share two of the pieces I was working in the art school. I was studying the Academy of Arts. So the bottom and the top, and I ended up with the ink in the bottom. So as myself, I personally really love drawing, especially with ink, because I was influenced by Japanese animation or any comic book style. But then when I went to art school, I was figuring out what's my art style, like what can represent myself. So I was taking so much time like exploring different style and talking to instructors. And while I was talking to one of the instructors, she mentioned that if I want to also work on picture book, maybe I should do less inking or maybe less animation style. So then I try to use less inking. I even use another material. I was using on the left, I was using pencil with pencil line and then color digitally. Even I do a cute style, a charming character, but I don't feel like that's what I want to present, or that's my voice, or that can represent myself. And then meanwhile, I still do my inking sketch. So you can see the inking on the left. This is actually me and my twin sister. Yeah, but we don't look alike. We're fraternal twins. So even I do pencil for my work, my thesis, I still do inking for fun, for sketching, for anything else. And then there's one day, one of my children's book teacher, she saw my inking, especially this one with me and my sister, and she was asking me, "Did you do this one?" And I say, "Yes, I did this one." And she say, Nadia, I don't want to be mean, but your pencil drawing is kind of boring." But she didn't mean a really mean way. She was saying, your inking is really fun. Why don't you try inking? And then I asked her, but if I do inking more, um, will mm, I cannot help me to find a children's book uh, market? So she answered my question. She asked me that the thing is just find your own voice and whatever makes you feel comfortable and enjoy. That's the key. So then I ended up working on inking, and then I still keep pencil for the texture or details. And then we can see while I was exploring, I also took some of the artist ideas. So I'm two of the artists, Isabel and Charles. Charles, you're already familiar with. And the one in the middle, her name is Little Founder. She's a cartoonist from Hong Kong. And as we can see from the right, the top for Isabel's style, I was um I was taking her way how she handling color and the pencil and pastel texture in the background. And for Little Founder, because she's a cartoonist and comic artist, so she's really good with inking traditionally. And I really love how she handling her line thickness. So I took the way how she handling the line thickness into my figure drawings. And then Charles, everyone knows about the peanuts. And because doing children's book, you need to do most of the kids drawing and maybe babies. I really love how he handled Charlie Brown and all the kids character with the little chubby belly. So I have my little chubby belly on my characters as well. So then after working on these styles, I still keep practicing sketching, inking, or any other materials as well. But then I combine all these three different ideas into my work. And that's how I create my style back in 2019. So you can see the top is I do pencil inking traditionally, and then I do color digitally. And for many of people who do artists, this is how you work so hard on your drawing, and then you will get a pretty short pencil. So then after graduation, I went to so many SCBWI conference, the one in New York, the one local. And then I was lucky I found my agent, Christy, from the agency. So then I started being a published illustrator. And this is my first book. It's a graphic novel for this historical figure called Ida Louise. And I remember that I was doing this for 3 to 4 months. And then that time I still do my work, especially one with pencil inking traditionally. So that means I still need to use pencil for rough sketches. And then whenever I do inking, I need to erase all of them. I remember when I was working on this one, my twin sister, well, she was with me in San Francisco. And then while I do inking, and she helped me to erase all the pencil roughs, textures. But I mean, my style looked a bit different to to the previous one I showed you while I work on in art school. Because the story idea is a historical figure, and then I think maybe I should make it a little more realistic. So I slightly making figures, expression, looking more real, but I still keep the ink and the pencil texture on the background. Yeah. And I would say I like drawing this way with inking and pencil traditionally, but just realizing if I do graphic novel um uh for traditionally, that will take a lot of time and so much effort. And because of that, I transfer to digitally. And this is my first picture book, 18 Faces of Water. You can see all of this image aligned. I do it on digitally with Procreate. And but still, I still keep the idea for how I start with traditionally. Like you can see the right, I start with my flat plan on paper. I use the sticky notes and doing all the rough sketches on each pages. And to the left, and because uh, when the team they reach out to me, they ask me, "Oh, we're gonna have this story, but we wonder if you can have something more poetry style or things." So then I make a really quick sketches for them, and then I ended up with this story. But still, you can see some of the details of the figure, outlines. I still keep it the same to make it more consistent. And then for this is the cover for 18 Faces of Water. And I was doing so many brush, watering brush on the background because I want to present a Chinese painting style and theme. But then to right here, maybe you can see the birds. Actually, most of the Chinese characters, they are from the symbols. Like for this one, this is a bird, meow. And because the shade looking a little different, looking a little similar, sorry. And then for here, it's ling. It's called, it's wood or forest. So I have these two. I work on ink traditionally and then combine and merge into my illustration, my digital illustration. So even that, I still keep sometimes doing traditionally and digitally. Um, but for this style, it looks a bit different to my book, Ida Lewis. And then to One for Dogs, which just published this February. And I think this is quite different to the other two books I work on. But I would say I still keep, you can see I still keep the way how I do ears, nose, eyes. So here is the character design. Well, the top is the first design I share with the client, but then I realized it doesn't really look fun the way how I want to present in this book. So then I make it more a little animation style, and in the button and I accent is can I use this style instead of the one I showed you previously? And they say totally differently. So I ended up with this kind of more fun and cute animation style. And I don't know if any of you are dog person or cat person, but I sneaky join my friends though because they are my baby, like Emma and Butter in the book. So sometimes I draw my friends or my friends' dog in the book. So while I work on this one, I do a lot of study for the New York building. And because of I've been to New York, but I'm not familiar with the interior design. I was even doing the interior design for this book. And you can see I have my pictures while I work on the line drawing. Or here, and this is the rough sketching, and then the finals. Yeah. And the color looking a bit different, but still I keep it subtle, but depends on different things. I can make it more slightly stronger or vibrant. But the thing is, I still keep my character designs, my style so consistent. And I would say even I do graphic novel or children's book, I feel fun because the thing is, what I do in the illustration I work on is what I truly love. So what I really encourage everyone who has an artistic dream and want to be artist or author, just keep doing what you're doing now and keep sketching and keep drawing, enjoying the thing that makes you really happy and comfortable, and always be open-minded to try new things. Thank you, everyone. And I will lead to, Nadia Salomon.
Thank you so much, Nadia Hsieh. That was awesome. Oh, wow. I have a tough act to follow. All right. I am actually going to share screen and talk to you a little bit about mentor texts, because that's one of my favorite things to talk about. So here we go. Screen share. All right. So I am Nadia Salomon. I am an author and now calling myself author-illustrator because I started my illustration journey because I've been so supported and motivated to illustrate my own work in the future. So this is a yes year for me. So I am pushing myself to now be an author-illustrator. But I started my journey mostly as an author, and these are my current 3 books that are out on the market. And I'm super excited to present to you today, and I'm going to share with you my thoughts and feelings and how I apply mentor text to my work when I'm creating my works. So for me, I feel, when I put my books out into the world originally, I was just putting books out into the world. I didn't realize the impact that my books would have to my readers. And I think when you first start out on your journey, you don't really think about the whole big picture. And that's a conversation that we end up having behind the scenes. And, when you have sold a second book and you've sold a third book and so on, and that you realize that once you become a published author, your book, whatever meaning it may have had for you or whatever the purpose was when you were going to put it out, it changes because now it belongs to the world. And I'm sharing these pictures because I want you to see some of the readers who have sent in their photos or shared with us how our book impacted their lives or how they wished they had these books when they were growing up. And that applies to me myself because I wish I had books that showcased some of my respective identities that I didn't have growing up because I was mostly focused on assimilating and being very American. So it was very fun to see these kids who were just like, oh my God, like, I can't believe there's a book with Telugu culture. I can't believe like I see Telugu words or, Ganesha on the cover of a book. So I feel I've made a lot of, my work is impacting in a way that I wasn't anticipating or expecting when I originally started. And so for me, what was the first book that I read that made me feel seen? It was Where Are You From? And I was an adult at the time that I read this book. And I was at a friend's book launch event, and this book, they put it up on the shelf, and I saw it and I sat with it because just Where Are You From resonated with me. And I started to cry, and I realized, oh, this is what it means when you read a book and it has value or it resonates with you. And I want kids to get that feeling too when they read my books, not, Nadia Fisher, Nadia Hsieh's books, or anyone's book that talks about straddling worlds or talks about, a different life experience. So if you have a moment, can you drop in the chat, what was the first book that you read that made you feel seen? And it doesn't have to be cultural. It doesn't have to be feelings. It's just, what was something that you read that spoke to you? And we'll just take about, 20, 30 seconds to talk about that. And while you do that, I'll just read to you. This first line is where it had me. I'm from here, from today, same as everyone else, I say. No, where are you really from? They insist. And so that speaks to me on so many levels. It's like I felt like this book resonated with me. I'm going to escape so that I can see your comments in the chat because I can't see them while I have my screen up. but I see a lot of responses. Miguel Street, Abuela, The Last Unicorn, Olivia the Pig, The Little Prince, Heidi, The Nutcracker, The Poet X, yes, Little House in the Big Woods, The Book Thief, Native Son. Yeah, so there's something about what was written, whether it's about, being curious, having an adventure, or just an experience that really touched you. I feel like my purpose has changed. Instead of just writing for the fun of it, yes, I want to write for the fun of it, but I also want to write stories that really matter and impact kids. The House on Mango Street, yes, Pee-Pee Longstocking, The Snowy Day, Harriet the Spy, Hot Dog. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So, let's see, this is not moving. There we go. So for mentor texts, what I want to share with you, like all the things that can be mentor texts, how you can analyze a mentor text, how you can transcribe text, like from books that you're reading. It doesn't have to be the whole book. It could be just maybe 2 or 3 spreads, which I'm going to show you a sample of what I did, and then applying the techniques to your work. So let's say you saw something done unusually in a book. You could try that tactic for your own writing, for your own work. So I encourage you to always be open. And so what is a mentor text? A lot of times people think mentor texts are just strictly books. I assure you that is not the only way. But we'll start with, it's a good piece of writing that you can use to help guide your writing. It can help you understand different writing styles because we all write differently or come from different perspectives. It offers different craft tools. You can see how techniques are being used to elevate your writing, and you can see how someone masterfully does the writing. And it also opens your mind to new possibilities, and it also can help foster new story ideas, because I've gotten sparks from reading someone else's book or a mentor text. And so for mentor text can be art. It could be any literary piece, from like picture book to YA, even an editorial piece in your newspaper, films, podcast, poems, song lyrics. It could be any one of these things that inspires you to write. And so I wanted to start with Goodnight Ganesha because that was my first book that I put out into the world. And I feel that when I was writing Goodnight Ganesha, I was very new to writing, even though I had been writing for a while. But I used Goodnight Moon as my starting point because that was the book that actually inspired Goodnight Ganesha, courtesy of my child. And the other books that I used as mentors were Goodnight Wind, The House in the Night, Goodnight World, I Just Want to Say Goodnight. And each of them had, something specific. One was based on a Yiddish tale. The other was just the use of color or limited palettes. Goodnight World, use of language, seeing how people say goodnight in other places or around the world. And then I Just Want to Say Goodnight is pretty humorous. And so those were some of the things that I wanted to incorporate in my own story when I was writing Goodnight Ganesha. So to start us off for analyzing mentor texts, we're going to look at first lines, emotion, figurative language, sensorial details, story and sentence structure, and how some of these craft tools are used in some of these stories. So we're going to start with first lines. This book is one that it's a very tough subject matter, but it is a great book if you want to learn to write using fairy tale language as you're telling a story, and to make it more kid relatable, because the whole point of writing altogether is for kid relatability, whether it be picture book all the way up to YA. The Big Bad Wolf in My House. The first line is, he didn't need to huff or puff or blow the house down. The big bad wolf just walked in the door. This one is by Sumanchai Nani, For Beasts and the Beauty, Dangerous Tales. And this is the story of Little Red Riding Hood. And the first line really gripped me when I read it, because I was like, whoa, this is super strong. It's, on the first day of spring, the wolves eat the prettiest girl. So when you're thinking about your first lines into a story, see how you can hook and grab your reader to keep asking you what comes next. For emotion, my picture book, Iraqi for Rakesh, illustrated by Nabi Ali, is a visual representation of anger, big feelings. It's a sibling story, first and foremost. And this is one of the big spreads where you also see in the illustration, the anger. So you see the Rocky up at the top where it looks like a star, the Rocky is broken. So that's showing, the rage and the anger feelings we're not supposed to have as children, but we do have them anyway. And I wanted to write to that. And then the things that sometimes we may say to someone we really love, that can be hurtful, such as, I wish you would go away, is what Ashi says to her big brother, Rakesh. And Rakesh is still raging. He's angry because in the story, Ashi breaks his submarine, and he says, I wish I had a different sister. And so I used that tool to show that emotion without necessarily saying they are angry, they are raging at each other, etc. So this spread in particular is a great visual representation of the big feelings I wanted to showcase. A Map for Palestine. I love the story because it's a visual representation of grief, loss, displacement. So this is both for authors and illustrators because it shows you illustratively, with the use of color, the palette, and the placement of each piece, and then the language. There are places, Hayati, you don't need a map to find, her mama said. Our favorite trail, your hideout in Tita's closet, the bird's nest inside our chimney. Sometimes people live in countries. Sometimes countries live in people. Palestine lives in you and me. And so I felt like this was such a lyrically, beautifully written and illustrated spread. I wanted to share that. And then next we have a visual representation of shame where we're going into big emotion. If you're not familiar with Flamer, this is a really awesome book on so many levels, but we're going to focus on how Mike Curato is showing shame. So this is a scene where the boy is lying in his bed, Aiden, and he's very upset because he did something that was unexpected, but then because of his Catholic upbringing, he feels shame, embarrassment, and so he draws everything with shame, bullying, anger, big emotions with a limited palette, but he uses the colors of red and orange to show flames in a way. And then he also uses symbolism in this story because you'll see in some of the images there are phoenixes. So, phoenixes are like these mythical creatures, and they have the ability to die and be reborn after a certain number of time, between 5 to 1,000 years. And so it's also showing you the, I guess, since there's a lot of religion in this book as well, it goes back to he is risen, like, he is risen. And then for the rest of it, it's showing all the big emotion. So we also have visual representation of illness by Raina Telgemeier here, where she uses also a limited color palette, and she shows a lot of green, and then she uses onomatopoeia to show like the feeling and the emotion, the chatter, the gasp, etc. And then the Grief Keeper, I'm sharing just short lines from these larger books because I think it's important for people to also understand that you can use mentor text to also apply that to your own work. So she says, the character says to the MC, "You're nothing more than an indentured servant." She points her finger at me, and I fight to keep looking into her eyes when all I want to do is look away. A glorified maid, a service dog. It has been a long time since someone made me so angry that I forget who I am, who I'm protecting, but this girl is digging up all my hidden anger. And with the Firekeeper's Daughter, I love this line, and I wanted to share it because it shows emotion. It's hard to explain what it's like being so connected to everyone and everything here, yet feeling that no one ever sees the whole me. And that is a book about someone who is straddling worlds in a multiracial family, or a biracial family. And then here, metaphors using figurative language. So with 2 grooms on a cake, Rob Sanders uses, the metaphor for baking a cake and then letting it cool off. Well, you have to wait, you have to be patient. And so he infuses that into the relationship between Jack and Michael, who also had to wait and, had to wait out their anger and cool off while they were applying for their second marriage license before it was granted. So figurative language. Water Song, great book for onomatopoeia, pop, gush, rush, splash, crash, wish, wash, wham. figurative language. And then we have El Defo, which is a visual representation of deafness. This is a great book to take a peek at, to see how CC Bell plays with paneling and plays with text captions and showing you visually what it is like to be a deaf person or a person who has deafness. And then here we have sensorial details. This is from Flame by Mike Corrado. Again, I really love this because I wanted to show you the symbolism with the phoenix, with the character, and then of course anger, rage, and like being bullied. So whenever he's using a scene or showing you a scene of what happened to him in his life through the story, he shows it with color. And then first words here for repetition, the use of repetition in a sentence or a story. Elizabeth Acevedo did a great job here with pero tú no eres fácil, like nothing is ever easy. So here she says it 4 times, but each time that it is said, it has a different meaning. So when you play the video back, you can read it through to see what those different meanings are. And then for alliteration, poetry, rhyme, and sentence structure, I'm using my own book, Goodnight Ganesha, where we're talking about language. Nana hums a serene lullaby as she sips and savors her sweet, spicy chai. Outside, a starry halo hangs high above the city and the black night sky. Good night, humming, good night, chai, good night, halo hanging high. So you can use rhyme, poetry, and the same thing with the voice of hope. This is one of London's favorite spreads, and I used a lot of characteristic language, meaning we were talking about Vicksburg, so anything that was reminiscent of Mississippi, that area, I applied it into the language. And then I also used repetition, where I talk about that one line that repeats itself throughout the book, baby, you're here for a purpose. Don't forget that purpose. And then I want you to look at nuances when you're looking at books like New Kid by Jerry Craft. This is one of my favorite pages where the teacher is kind of tone deaf and she is giving her students books that don't really match their life experience. And you see that, in their reactions. And then, of course, when they speak it to her at the end, and the boy says, but my dad is a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Why are you talking to me about life in the mean streets of South Uptown? So I thought that was interesting. And then, of course, you have, satisfying endings. On a Magical Do Nothing Day is one of those on a magical, like, super cool, quiet book that I really love, very reminiscent of Where the Wild Things Are. And I love it because at the end of the day and at the end of the story, on this magical do nothing day, the child is actually drinking tea or hot cocoa with their parent. And that's what you're left with. And, you're looking at the steam and you're looking at, the calmness and, the love in the kitchen. And then applying techniques to your work. I want you to, so these are exercises that you can do on your own. I'm just showing you a sample here for how to transcribe mentor text. I chose Fireworks because since that's, the Caldecott winner and it's a beautifully written picture book. So these are the first 3 spreads. In the summer, the sun rises between buildings on our block to greet us at breakfast, and it beats warmer and brighter when we venture out across steamy city sidewalks. By noon, it gets so hot, the fire hydrant springs a leak, and we do what all kids do. Wee! Woohoo! So using automatopoeia, using lyrical language, sensorial details, those are things that you should be vying for in making it always kid relatable, meaning from the lens of a child. And then this is the group exercise that I wanted us to try, but since we are running out of time, you can go back and view the video and analyze the spread that I'm going to show you, and then think about how you would apply some of the craft devices that we discussed throughout this presentation and apply it to your own work. And this is a great book. I love it because it is great for pacing. It is great for onomatopoeia, energy, and it just kind of gives you like a cadence for the book. So I'll just read this one part where you have May 25th, 1965, Lewiston, Maine. Pow, pow, the 2 boxers meet for a rematch. Only Clay has a new name, the name of a champion, Muhammad Ali. It means worthy of praise most high. Ali wins again. I am the greatest. So using Muhammad Ali's quotes in the story putting you in the ring with Muhammad Ali and his opponent. You get to feel the tension, you get to feel the energy. And so those are the types of things you should be thinking about when you are writing your own stories, whether it is picture book, middle grade, graphic novel, YA, etc. And so the recap is showing you how to select and use varied styles of writing to help you mentor text. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be a book. It could be a song you're listening to, a program you're watching, newspaper article, podcast, etc. Taking apart mentor text from the first lines, the story structure, the importance of the art, because art elevates your writing. Typing up the text of your favorite picture book. Again, you don't have to type the whole thing, but maybe like, a spread or two. Thumbnailing a short chapter in a graphic novel, even if you're not, a proficient illustrator. It's okay to just like draw little stick figures to tell your story or learn how to write a better story. And again, I leave you with challenge yourself by playing around with your own words. I did, all the Nadias did, and here we are telling you what you can do. There's so much magic in all of this. And so we are at Q&A, and I want to thank everyone for giving us an opportunity to share knowledge and our passion and our works with you.
Thank you, Nadias. That was so wonderful. You guys managed to fit so much into just an hour with 3 completely different like creators and approaches. Thank you all. That was just wonderful. And it's just, I know everyone probably knows this already, but just a reminder that we can all watch this again, which I think is going to be really fun. So well done, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for just a few questions. And so one of them, so you all touched on this in different ways, but I love this, and I think it's a challenge, but maybe if each of you could just say like one specific tip about this, because I think you all approach it in different ways, which is, how do you find authenticity in your characters and settings? Like specifically, authenticity is such a big topic and you all touched on it in different ways, but if there's anything very specific you could kind of cap it off with that you tend to do, and it applies to writing and illustrating, however you want to approach it. Does anyone want to pick that up first?
I'm happy to start. I feel like you can't tell a story if your heart isn't into it, and so you have to be authentic in that way. Also, if it's not your story to write, you can't really be authentic in that respect because it's not really your story to tell. But if you have lived experience, or like Nadia Fisher and I, like we straddle worlds, so we're our whole bodies are really in all of those worlds, and so we can write from those lenses. But again, the whole point of storytelling and sharing stories with people is to just be true to yourself. And if your heart's not in it, your readers are going to know. And so I feel like the best stories, or the stories that win awards, or the stories where people fall in love with the writing, or they fall in love with the illustration, is because there was joy in that story. And so I think stay focused on the joy, stay focused on being true to who you are and not doing it for commercial purposes.
I love that response.
Nadia. Oh, okay. Okay. I would say for the characters, draw from your experiences if you can bring a part of yourself to it. I think for background, for environment, if you're not familiar, again, draw from your experiences, but if you want to explore a new world, I would say go and research. And just try, if you can, visit. I know there are illustrators that actually go to, and writers that go to the location and do all kinds of research and immerse themselves in that environment so that they can depict it honestly and what was I going to say for illustrating? Same thing. With the characters, I've illustrated stories about other people. Um, and I have gone up and down their Instagram or website or videos if they have them, stories that they have, and try to capture uh, the story that they are trying to tell. I think for Daddy and Me Side by Side by Pierce Freelon, it was set in this park in North Carolina that he loved to go to with his dad and that he takes his children there. So I pulled up as many pictures as I could. And luckily, DC and Maryland, Virginia have similar landscape. So I could draw from that. But yeah, a lot of research. And if there are your own characters, especially, please like bring part of yourself to the story.
I agree.
Okay, so I feel most of my answer are answered by two of my Nadias. So I think the key is just do what you love, what you enjoy, what that really means to you, and not really following commercial. Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah. These answers are so great because they actually wound up touching on other questions that people had asked. People had wondered about research. People had also asked about intersectionality. One in particular, I thought this was worded interestingly, and this I think I pulled it out of the chat. I don't think it was in the Q&A. I pulled it out of the chat when Nadia Fisher was talking, but anyone who wants to speak to this. The question was, can you speak a bit more about the importance of intersection of how we see ourselves and how the world sees us versus just focusing on how we see ourselves? I thought that was a really interesting way of asking about that.
Yeah, so I can touch on it a little bit if I'm understanding correctly. I think sometimes it's how we're perceived. So I'll just talk about myself personally. So I, how I identify myself, I am biracial. I say I'm Black and Italian. My mom is Italian. My dad is African American. I have two cultures that make up my life. And how I see myself is one way. Outside might say you're not enough of either or. So if you're trying to come up with an idea, that can be something. And it can go with any of the aspects of how you see yourself and maybe a label that society puts on you that you don't necessarily put on yourself. And you can tackle that, whether it's picture books or middle grade or YA, any stories that you want to touch on.
Really interesting. So I thought this was a really interesting one too. So this is very specific, but I think that a lot of people could relate to it in some way because I don't know, maybe it's about pigeonholing. This is the question. My question is about universal themes. As per my understanding, being universal means they belong to everyone. I'm originally from India. I've been in the US for the past 26 years. My little son is born and raised American, and many of my ideas come from his childhood experiences. I have some ideas on universal themes, but I get the feeling that industry pros want me to stick to stories related to Indian culture. And how do I counter that? I know it's really specific, and sometimes I try in these Q&As to stick with things that are not so specific, but I feel like it's the type of situation a lot of people could imagine being in, and how would I deal with that, or what is it that I think people want from me? And you guys have all mentioned, not necessarily going with what's commercial or what's expected of you, but finding something more authentic for yourself. So I don't know. I just wanted to bring that.
I'll take a stab at that one, because I feel like, it's not okay. So I was born and raised here. However, I was sent back when my parents first emigrated here. And even though I was born American, but I was still in English as a second language learner.
Mhm.
And I feel also I have relatives who are first generation, and then they have children here. And then I don't know if this is applicable or what this person is looking for, but the funny scenario is we each are talking about how each of us had it bad. Whereas I'm like, it makes no difference. We still have the same problem. You know,
Mhm.
the first thing that people see is what we look like, or if they hear us speaking a different language, they assume we don't speak English like they do, or they assume we don't belong. Or, you know, the person in particular I was talking to was like, oh, I have it so bad. You know, when I came to this country, I had to learn to assimilate and all this. But then I was like, well, I was born here and I still have to go through that process on top of straddling both worlds and still getting it from our own side of the family who still views me as an outsider. And, oh, you speak the language, but you don't speak it as well because you've got like an accent. So I just feel like if you're going to tell these stories, um, if you've experienced it, it's still universal, whether it's your story or your child's story.
Mhm.
And the point is to find the middle ground or where you connect or you have things that are in common that would be applicable to, let's say, a reader who has never experienced what we are experiencing. So I
Mhm.
think it's important to keep the focus on the universality because you know, we all breathe the same air, look at the same sky, even though we may view it differently, or even, you know, two of us growing up in the same household, but like I might hold on to a part of the culture that like maybe one of my siblings may be like, yeah, we grew up in the same house, but I don't believe that. Or I don't want to do that, or I don't want to raise my kid that way. So I feel like no matter what you do, it always goes back to the individual person and looking for what we all have in common. We all love, we all have had like you know, something fall out of our hands and like we're like, oh no, what do I do? Like those kinds of experiences. Or you go to school and like, you know, your lunch falls out of your bag and you're like, what am I going to eat? So, you know, those types of things I feel are the universal things. Love, you know, like the emotions that we all share, hunger, like we're all hungry. Like talk about
Yeah.
or write about, you know, a story that both you and your child can relate to and, you know, maybe a reader reading your story can relate to.
Thank you, Nadia. Any other Nadias want to weigh so here's the thing. This was going to be an hour. We're now at an hour 15. Every moment was worth it, but I think more questions are streaming in, but you know, we could just go on and on forever. But I love this whole presentation and this conversation so much. I think we'll have to cap it there, to end it there, even though there are more questions. But one thing I'll just mention based on just a couple other questions we didn't get to is I have my kid and puppy making an appearance, is, you know, not to confuse universality with being generic. You know, there's so, you know, specificity in all the different ways, visual and storytelling and like about, you know, authentic characters and settings. They specificity can bring universality, you know, but you need, now I'm just throwing words around, but you need authenticity to make a story not generic, you know? And you guys all have talked in these different ways about bringing something to it that is joyful or that you relate to or that you've experienced that you feel passionate about. And I feel like, you know, any kid around the world can relate to a character in a book, in a place, in a setting, in a culture that they've never had any experience with, because what we're dealing with is like human emotions, you know? And that's such a beautiful thing for kids to see themselves and then also get to relate to some other people that look totally different from them because they're sharing those universal emotions. All right, we have attendees worried about Nadia's face. sleep. So I'll stop. You guys were so wonderful. Thank you so much. For anyone who's still wondering, because I saw it come up again, yes, this is recorded. You'll be able to find it on the SCBWI site and on YouTube. Thank you, the Nadias, for sharing your time with us and your expertise. We appreciate it so much. And yeah, thank you for hanging out. There were over 100 of us here live together. This was just wonderful. So hope everyone has fun working on their stories and their art when they're done with the session. And thank you again so much for teaching this session, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll remind you guys, we can turn off our cameras and sound. It's easy to forget. Thanks, everyone.